The World Health Organization this morning calls Ebola the most severe acute health emergency seen in modern times. The virus is spreading in the United States. Hazmat crews cleaned the apartment of an infected Texas healthcare worker. She was part of the team that treated Thomas Duncan. He died last week.
The dog of this new patient will be kept safe. That's the unusual promise from Dallas's mayor. The canine will be reunited with its owner once she's better. The dog will not be euthanized. That was the fate of an Ebola patient's pet last week in Spain, despite protests to save the animal. And this morning, screenings for flights from West Africa continue at Kennedy Airport in New York. 4 other U.S. airports will start the measures this week.
West Africa continues to reel from the devastation of the disease, where the CDC reports about 8,400 cases of Ebola. The virus has led to more than 4,000 deaths, and that number is expected to climb. But Deborah Pata is on the ground in the Liberian capital of Monrovia, where international efforts could start paying off.
Good morning. Liberia's poor health system and a lack of beds have up until now been the biggest problems in trying to contain the spread of Ebola. But slowly, new treatment centres are being built which could triple the capacity to deal with this disease.
Construction continues around the clock in Monrovia. This is the first of 17 planned Ebola treatment units that the U.S. military is building across the country.
2 separate treatment centers of 150 beds each, so it's sort of a mirror image. You see down the middle splits the two. But this is the triage area.
America's ambassador to Liberia, Deborah Malik, says they wanted to build a place where people felt comfortable enough to bring their loved ones.
We're still encountering some denial. We still have some work that we need to do in that regard. But I think people are starting to understand that they need to protect themselves. They need to protect their families. The big constraint has been, until the last few weeks, is the absence of places to take those sick people.
This centre could be ready within days and will have 150 patient beds. The international health agency Doctors Without Borders has been in Liberia for months and operates 5 large Ebola centres with a total of 502 isolation beds. Laurence Ali is one of the group's emergency response coordinators. She agrees help was needed months ago, and while grateful that it's on the horizon, it is nowhere near enough to contain the epidemic.
They won't try. They have to poll black people. They should have helped them
work
years
in the
ago.
Isolation centers. It's not enough to have the empty structures. We need to have people to manage those structures. What will take time is to train the staff that will be working in the center.
Here in Monrovia, the message is starting to slowly get across that behavioural change and proper sanitation are crucial to fighting this disease. It's difficult to enter a building in the capital city without having to wash your hands in chlorinated water and have your temperature taken. But Doctors Without Borders remain convinced that the death toll is a lot higher than statistics show, because many people are still not reporting all cases of Ebola. Jane?
Deborah, thank you. A former head of the National Security Agency says he doesn't understand why the government wants to force a reporter to testify about the NSA's domestic surveillance. Retired General Michael Hayden told 60 Minutes correspondent Leslie Stahl that James Risen of the New York Times is acting on principle by not revealing who gave him the secret information.
So you would not be pursuing Jim if you had the decision to make?
Frankly, Leslie, I don't understand the necessity to pursue Jim.
You're shocking me that the former head of the NSA is saying that it's coming down too hard.
I'm conflicted. I know the damage that is done, and I do, but I also know the free press necessity in a free society. And it actually might be that I think, no, he's wrong. That was a mistake. That was a terrible thing to do. America will suffer because of that story. But then I have to think about, so how do I redress that? And if the method of redressing that actually harms the broad freedom of the press, that's still wrong. The government needs to be strong enough to keep me safe, but I don't want it so strong that it threatens my liberties.
Risen says he will never reveal his sources. He wrote about the NSA in a book published by Simon & Schuster, which is owned by CBS.
A 2-year-old boy is in critical condition after the bounce house he was playing in flew into the air. Another boy was also hurt. The bounce house crashed to the ground after reaching a height of about 50 feet. The accident happened at an orchard yesterday. The bounce house was out of service and being held in a restricted area. It's unclear how the kids got inside.
Hillary Clinton was in San Diego Sunday to speak to a group of doctors. A heckler with a bullhorn tried to drown her out.
In 1995, health millions of our children at risk.
By coincidence, the former Secretary of State was talking about early language development.
You know, there are some people who miss important developmental stages.
That's right.
That's for the former Secretary of State.
Yeah.
It's an important subject for a new grandmother.
I know. I mean, you have to be quick on your feet when you're heckled like that and learn to sort of laugh it off. And that was pretty quick.
That's very good.
That was very quick, very quick.
He didn't really say anything. He just had the bullhorn, I guess.
Yeah, who knows, but just disturbing. Yeah.
Point was made.
Yeah, I know. It's my read, isn't it?
It is, actually.
Sorry. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Jane. Jane was secretly saying to me, Nora, to help you. Nora, that's your read. Time to go. All right, ahead on CBS This Morning, the revolution that was televised here on CBS. Walter Cronkite and CBS News first used a computer in the 1952 presidential election. We're going to learn the secrets behind the world's biggest high-tech breakthroughs. But first, it's 8:08. Time to check your local weather.
Good morning. We are mostly cloudy. Most of our rain, though, is now into northern Virginia. However, we could still get a few more showers today, especially west of Richmond. Tomorrow, a few showers around, warmest day of the week before a wet Wednesday to come. Kristen?
Thanks, Carrie. Well, heads up in Chesterfield, just along Hull Street Road, pretty close to Woodlake Village Parkway. We have gas line repairs closing down lanes of traffic. Only one lane eastbound Hull Street Road gets by.
This morning's Eye Opener at 8, sponsored by Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.